Hi, welcome to Suburban Cauldron. I'm Amethyst, and I know it's been a few weeks. I hope I didn't lose too many of you. I really appreciate your patience on this. Remember that garden blessing spell with all of the manifesting we've been doing recently? As it happens, I managed to manifest myself a new job, which on one hand, yay me. On the other hand, it means that we had to adjust to some new work schedules and some changes in my life. So I really do appreciate your patience on it while I got adjusted and back to normal. Now that we are back to normal, though, I want to get us back in the kitchen and get us back to cooking. So what are we looking at here? Well, we have a full moon coming in May, typically called the flower moon, but she's also known by several other titles, as all of the moons are. These titles include things like the budding moon or the leaf budding moon. Sometimes you'll hear it the egg laying moon or the frog moon, or there's even some tribes that'll go as far as to call it the moon of the shedding ponies. And really, whatever her title is, it's generally based around the idea that the weather is changing. Warmer weather is coming in, and the environment is responding to that warmer weather. And we're seeing those changes in our environment. We're getting more and more excited about the vegetation that's coming in and the abundance that we're actually starting to see come through, right? My lettuce is going crazy right now because it's loving the cooler springtime weather. I'm just ready to start to get the veggies in the boxes pretty soon. I've got my herb garden up and ready to go. So we're really looking forward to this springtime transition. So that's where all of her tiles come in. So we're going to do the same thing in the kitchen, and we're going to bring it down to a flower moon spring roll. This is a recipe that I found online, so I'll be sure to put the link in the description below. Speaking of down below, please also remember to like and subscribe so you can keep yourself updated on our latest video drops as they come in. But with this spring roll, this is a really nice, airy, light dish that we like to see through spring and summer as that warmer weather starts to come in. And you're going to see that as our videos move forward. We're going to try to stick with some less oven use, maybe some more outdoor backyard barbecue use, but some of these lighter dishes that aren't so heavy and so heat heavy as well. Okay, so again, we're going to bring that into the kitchen with the springtime transition. But the spring roll works great as a standalone dish. It works well as a vegetarian dish because there's not any meat product in it. However, it also pairs really well with proteins like an Asian-inspired grilled chicken or grilled fish, something along those lines. So this works really well. It's a really versatile dish as well. So as far as magic goes for this particular time, with the May full moon, you're looking at that changing weather. So, and that springtime abundance. So remember, we're always looking at the abundance at this time. We just had Beltane, and that's, carrying us all the way through. So this is a time of year that we look at careers and jobs. We look at big transitions. For example, if you're looking at your particular family, maybe you have high schoolers that are just starting to put in college applications or apply for scholarships. They're trying to join new sports teams. We're looking at what are our adventures for the summer, family trips, things like that. So those big transitions that are coming through, even for yourself. Is there a new job? Are we moving houses? Those kinds of things. We're looking at this abundance and the change moving forward, but we're also releasing some of the energy from the projects that we've been working on. I know we've done this a couple of times, but it is a theme that carries us through the spring because we've got several months of transition, okay? So with this one, we're at the end of that release and the beginning of using the energies that we have been releasing. So yes, we're gonna release, but the things that we're releasing this time, this is a little bit of a deeper dig. We're looking at things to release that either we have already tried to release and they just keep cropping up and coming back on our face and we really want to let them go. We're going to do that with the cut of the veggies, okay? Or these, again, are those deeper transitions that we're going to release those energies from, like an old house or an old job or an old or ended relationship, things like that, so that we can really transition and use that energy for these big events coming up for us in the future. Okay, so as far as the magic goes, the one and only ingredient or supply that you're going to need is your trusty dusty edible marker. When it comes to magic, outside of the kitchen, we use a pen and a paper or a quill and a paper quite a bit because we like to write things down and release it into the universe. So we'll write things on paper and we'll burn it, or we'll bury it, or we'll freeze it, those kinds of things. But when we bring it into the kitchen, this edible pen is just as usable as your quill, okay? So we're gonna write down some things on stuff that we're gonna turn it into this dish at the same time, because again, remember, we're trying to fuse, we're doing a little magical food fusion here. We're fusing our spell and our rituals with our kitchen. So that's where your trusty edible marker is gonna come in. So for your dish, what are we getting out? You're going to need quite a few veggies. We're going to start with a spring roll wrapper. You can get these in the grocery store. It's just a rice paper wrapper for spring rolls. You're going to need a red and a yellow pepper each. You're only going to use about half of each of these in your recipe. You're going to need some radishes, some avocados. I've got about 5 or 6 green onions that I've just sliced down, and we'll talk more about the slicing here in a little bit, and a cucumber. The cucumber that you get, if you get the big American ones that you get in the produce section, you're only going to need about half of it. But if you get the little English ones that are like the mini greenhouse cucumbers, you can use the whole cucumber for that. I find them to have a bit of a crisper flavor, so I kind of like those guys. And then some fresh herbs, a nice sharp herb like a basil or a cilantro or a mint is going to work well in this. If you happen to have somebody in your family that has that fancy dancy gene that says, hey, cilantro tastes like soap, don't go with that, okay? Don't over soap your family, but a nice flavorful herb works well for this. My partner happens to have that fancy gene, so we don't put soap in our recipes. So today I've gone out to my fresh herb garden and I've grabbed a little bit of basil that I've freshly chopped here as well. And then the star of the show are these edible flowers. You can get these at Whole Foods. They come in the little plastic containers. They're going to be over in the produce section where they have the other fresh herbs in the same plastic containers. You can try to find edible flowers on Amazon. If you Google it or you search it on Amazon, what you're going to find are packages of freeze-dried or dried flowers that they want to send you, or they're dried and candied. And typically they're a pansy kind of flower. But the idea here is we want the fresher flowers. So that's why I went with these. If you happen to have a beautiful and flourishing flower garden that you don't regularly spray with pesticides or any kind of chemicals, you certainly can do this because you have control of your own garden. You know how to do this in an edible fashion. Just make sure you do the proper research on what flowers, what parts of what flowers you can eat, okay? I know that roses, typically you can eat pretty well, become edible. And obviously, of course, all of our zucchini flowers, those are an edible version. But make sure you do your research before you just start throwing willy-nilly flowers in there. Don't poison your family, okay, is the theme here. But with these, they're pretty well trusted flowers, and they're fresh, and they're nice, and they're happy to use. I'm probably gonna just throw a quick slice through those guys, just because although they're beautiful and they are gonna go on a rice paper and make it look pretty, I've also had that super tasty, fantastic club sandwich at the restaurant that comes with the ginormous piece of lettuce that slides out of your sandwich all in one piece in the first or second bite. It makes a mess out of you, and now the rest of your sandwich doesn't have any lettuce on it. So I like to make sure that when I take a bite of something, I don't have to work at trying to get whatever I'm trying to get, okay? So we're gonna work with those. Those are our spring rolls. We're also gonna serve this with a dipping sauce that is an almond butter based dipping sauce. So almond butter you can find in the peanut butter section. It does actually make a pretty decent substitute. My family plows through peanut butter, and yet if I were to buy a jar of almond butter, it would kind of sit in there for a little while. And I don't know why, it's just a mental thing with, oh, I'll grab the peanut butter as opposed to the almond, it's fine. So what I actually have is a lot of the grocery store will sell almond butter in little snack packets. These are designed to go in a lunch box or a bento box with your pretzels and little dippers, right? Just like the almond butter in the jar, you'll want to stir that really well with these. You do want to work these a little bit because the oils do redistribute, they do separate in the packets just like they do in the jar. So you really want to work this together to make sure this is nice and blended and smooth. But these packets make it really easy to have just a small amount of almond butter and not have to have the jar just sit in your pantry forever. All right, so that's going to start the almond butter. That sauce is also going to want some freshly grated ginger that I've got here. You're going to want some soy sauce and some lime juice, and then a little bit of warm water just to kind of mix this all together and blend it well. You're also going to want a wide and shallow dish for your rice paper wrappers. These are actual like rice paper, brittle rice paper in the packaging. You'll want to soften those up in some warm water. And that also is where our edible pen is going to come in later on down the road. All right, so we've got all of this together. What kind of magic are we working? We already talked a little bit about this is a good time to think about that transition as we move into the new spring and summer, right? So we're looking at things like career changes, house changes, those big life changes, or the things that you want to carry into this spell and have in mind are things that you want to release the energy from and things you want to put new energy into, the big projects. Okay, so as you get started, if you're going to cast circle, you want to stick with your springtime themes. Okay, so your color schemes are going to be your pastels or any shade of green you can come up with. Multiples even work because you're thinking of that freshly wooded forest where all the green leaves are coming in. Go for a walk around your neighborhood. Take a look at all of the different colors in the flowers that are coming through. I know I've got a number of neighbors. My neighborhood was built, the HOA put lilac bushes in everybody's yard. So the different colors of lilac bushes are everywhere. The big white flowered trees are everywhere. I've got neighbors that have some beautiful, beautiful roses. I've got a bunch that have some great tulips. My irises are just starting to come out. I've got some neighbors who already have theirs blooming. So really go for just a quick nature walk around your neighborhood and look at all of those colors. That's the theme we're going to go with here when we're casting circle. All right, and then when it comes to deities that we're working with, we're going to lean in the direction of deities like Kali and Priapus, Cernunnos, Flora. I'm so disappointed that I was busy and wasn't able to get the Beltane video recorded because that particular ritual leans heavy on Cernunnos as that spring god as he's coming into his power. So if you feel like you want to call on Cernunnos here, this is a good time to do that. Or even Pan works really well because, again, he is all about the fertility and the abundance and all of that to pull in. So we're going to call those guys in if you're calling quarters and casting circles. If you're not, as you get ready to get started, you're just going to take that second to make sure that you ground and center as we do, right? And release all of your negative energy. We've already cleansed and cleaned our kitchen and we feel like we're in a safe space. You take that nice grounding, you get rid of all of the negative energy or bad thoughts or indecision or even insecurities within yourself, and you bring in and you make yourself open to the joy and the abundance and all of the positive that we're going to put into our spell. Okay, remember, when we cook with intent, and the intent we're going to put in here is love and abundance and not negative stress. Okay, so do your best to let go of that as we move forward. This is a really good time now that you've grounded and centered. If you're not casting circle, this is the perfect spot to say a quick invocation to Lord and Lady and a quick thank you and express your gratitude. That is something I do with pretty much all of my full moons. Even if all I have is 5 minutes and if all I have as far as time and spoons, right, is to just step out on the porch and look at the moon. I take a deep breath and I just say that standard gratitude, Lord and Lady, thank you for always being with me and providing me the powers and energies and, the pathway to my own power, whatever it is that I've been struggling with and have felt their presence with that month. I say that I give them gratitude for that. So we're going to do something similar to that here with the added invocation. Lord and Lady, I thank you for always being with me and providing me with, love and energy and power to move forward with each day. I ask that you join me for the full moon as I build a meal to nourish my family and our coming projects in the future. Welcome and blessed be. That's all we really need, right? We just want to throw that quick out there and just kind of get their attention to just like, they're busy doing things, but if they want to throw an eye over here and maybe a little zap of power, we would appreciate it. Okay. All right, so the prep is definitely a part of this. So with this whole process, we're going to start with getting our veggies prepped. And with your veggie prep, it starts with that quick rinse at the sink, right? I've already rinsed these, but as you do that, whether they came from the grocery store and they still have their sticker on them, or they came from the produce section or the farmer's market, you want to give these a quick rinse. And really, as you're rinsing, you're going to imagine that the water is loosening the bonds to the energy of the project, right? So each of these is going to represent a different project or something that you want to release the energies from. They can all be one project or they can each be something different, but they're going to represent that project. So as you're rinsing and you just run your hands over them and you let the water run over them, you're thinking about the water loosening the bonds. We're not watching the energy drain off and go down the drain. We don't want to lose it that way, but we're just going to loosen it, right? It's just kind of got this coating, so we're going to loosen it. And then once we get it to our cutting board, we're going to really imagine as we slice these into pieces that each cut is cutting the bond between the energy that we want to release and the project itself. All right, so as you cut these through, you're going to cut these into slices that are just a little bit shorter than the length of your spring roll is going to end up. So the width of your spring roll, we're going to fold these in. So you want to make sure that your veggies are on here with about 2 inches on either side. So you want to cut them just a little shorter than your spring roll itself. All right. And as you do this, you are really going to release those bonds and release the energy that's in them, right? So you're going to see with each cut a little poof of energy release itself, okay, as you come through, and you're just going to make these into nice thin little slices. As you're cutting these, you're going to imagine, like I said, the release of the energies that come through. As you're doing this, remember that as you're cutting, you're not wasting the energy. The energy's not, you're not killing it and you're not wasting it. Yes, we're releasing it to let go of it, but we're not just bleh. We're just, I mean, we've had some rituals where we have sent that energy out into the world. But in this instance, we're not killing it. We're not releasing it out into the world because we're actually going to create this into a dish that we're going to consume. We're going to reconsume that energy and recycle it and re-nourish it so that we can use it again later. We're going to give it that recharge of our own personal power and then use it again later. So that's the big thing here. We're not killing it, and it's never going to be chalked up as wasted energy. These are projects that have just come to a close, right? They're just complete, and we're not going to dedicate energy to them anymore because they're finished. So that's where we're getting this cut. We're cutting away the bonds so that we can pull the energy back into ourselves and use it later. Okay. With each of these slices, we're going to speak the words in the name of the Lady of the Flower Moon and her young lord as he enters into manhood. I release the energies of said project, whatever that project is, so that I may consume it and renew it and use it again in the future. Okay, so we're just going to pass that along. And then, of course, that last cut, you're going to bring that down on your thought of so mote it be, right? So you're just going to finish these guys up. Like I said, everybody else is pretty much pre-cut and ready to go. So again, we're just going to get all of our veggies out here, and we're going to move forward with the next part, which is building. Here's where things get a little tricky. We're going to start working with our rice paper. Once you get this out and you start working with it, things move rather quickly. It's going to go in the warm water, and it's only going to be in the warm water for about 15 seconds or so. And you'll know when it's time to come out, okay? This is pretty hard coming out of here. But once it goes in the water, it's going to be really pliable. And remember, once your rice paper comes out of the water, we're going to need to delicate finger this, okay? If you're anything like me, when I do crafts, I have ogre hands, okay? I tend to over strengthen things. I over tighten, I tear, I break, and I over paint stuff all the time because I have the ogre fingers. We want to think elven fingers, nice and delicate as we move forward with our rice paper, okay? But once this happens, things move rather quickly because you want this to stay nice and moist and pliable, okay? It can get kind of tricky, so you're gonna see all of the concentration happening here. But as we're getting ready to do this, this is where you start thinking about those projects moving forward, okay? We've loosened up and we've released the energy. We're going to put that and bundle it into fresh new energy that we want to put out. So you're going to get your edible marker out and you're going to write on your rice paper whatever the name is of the project that you want to come along. So for mine, I have the job, so I want to say career. because I want to continue to build that. I'm going to say, oh, I want to finish my book project this year. I want to really have my garden be abundant and really prosperous. Okay. Maybe I want to do a family trip, right? We want to go on a trip together. We want to do some things there. Okay. So really think of what are the big projects that you want to put into this, and you're just going to write them on your rice paper. This is something you can do as a family project. Maybe if you get your whole family involved, everybody can have their own rice paper. You can even write your names on these if you want to try. The ink does come off a little bit in the water, but your wrap will still have it on there as you work with it, okay? And even if it does come completely off, you've put this out there and it is a part of your meal, and you're gonna wrap your energies in this, okay? So everybody can have their own, or if you want to, like I said, just build several of these based on a big family thing that you want to, that you see, big family transitions that you see. Maybe we're all moving or we're moving to a new city, whatever the case is, that's how you're going to work on this. So right into the nice warm water, you'll see it curl up first. That's the first thing it wants to do, is curl up. And then as it sits in the water and you work with it, it'll become more and more pliable in the water, and then it'll hit a spot where it sinks under the surface of the water a little bit, and it'll go poof, and it'll start to scrunch up, okay? And that's when you know, okay, she's ready to pull. All right, so he's getting pretty close. Like I said, maybe 10, 15 seconds. We're still kind of hard in there, but it's just starting to do its thing, and it's gonna go pop here in a second. When I pull this out of the water, here he goes. I'm gonna put this onto a wet board to work with, just because the damper the board to work with, the less sticky things become. So that went in as hard, and it comes out as very delicate, right? And it does still have my writing on there. So I'm going to put this on my board, nice and gentle, thinking elven fingers, not oak fingers. Don't over strengthen things. But I want to stretch it out a little bit. Remember, your rice paper is asking to tear. If you get a little tear here and there, that's okay. Don't panic, but try not to make it any bigger of a tear. Okay, so I've got this there on my board, and then I'm going to start with my flowers. It's nice to have the flowers on the outside just so you can kind of see them as they come through. Okay, and I love these roses. They're so pretty. So I'm going to put those down. I'm going to hold the stem out just because he gets kind of big and bulky in the way, but I put my flowers in there. And then I take a little bit of each of my veggie. And as I stack my veggie in here, I'm thinking about the projects that I have written on my rice paper. And I'm thinking about, what is it that I'm excited about moving forward with? What do I hope to see with each of my projects as they come through? What kind of success? What kind of roadblocks am I going to run into? Those kinds of things as I go through. So I've got all of my little veggies in here. Everything's lined up and nice and neat. And then I'm going to wrap this. So remember, you want to pull your edges in about 2 inches or so, and then you just wrap it over like a roll, right? You're just going to roll these together a little tight, but not so tight that the rice paper wants to tear. And then once that's done, he's going to go in a little dish with his friend under a damp cloth, just to keep him nice and moist. That is it. So as you're wrapping these together, you're thinking about all of those energies that are going through, and you're going to speak the words, in the name of the lady and her young lord at the flower moon, I bind these freshly budded energies into said project. May I nourish them with my, may they be nourished with my power. As it harm none, so mote it be. And then you're wrapping those up, and we're popping them in the dish when they're done. As soon as these are finished, we're going to set them aside. They can stay under a damp cloth. You do want to keep them moist, so a damp cloth. You can pop them in the fridge if you're not ready to serve yet. They work, they hold really well. So pop them in the fridge if you're not ready to serve yet. But ultimately, we're going to set all of these aside, and then we're going to get started on our sauce. All right, guys, so we have finished making our spring rolls and getting these rolled up. I just had them covered under a nice moist towel, but this really is what we are looking at as far as our spring rolls. They look beautiful and wonderful and super tasty. So we're going to move into making our peanut sauce now. The peanut sauce is, well, peanut, I say our nut sauce to go with our spring rolls. It is, again, made out of an almond butter. Again, you can find your almond butter in the grocery store in the peanut butter section. It's really easy to make. So this just starts with a peanut butter base, a little bit of grated ginger. We've got a little bit of warm water to add to this. It's about a tablespoon of warm water. We're going to add into this with about a teaspoon of your ginger. And we're going to get that in there. And then we need about a tablespoon each of our lime juice and our soy sauce. So we'll get these guys opened up and poured in here. Add that one in. And lime juice. And that goes in. And as we stir this together, again, we're just going to remember and think about what we're doing here. So what we're doing here is we're blending all of these energies together. And with this, we're really going to think about the energies that we're blending. We've already got the energies that we released from the projects that we have already done, and we've bound them up with new energy into our rice paper. And now we're going to mix this into a sauce, and with this, we're just going to add our own bit of personal power as we push through this, right? So this sauce is super easy, as a lot of sauces are. You just put all of your ingredients together and you just get this a good mix. You really kind of got to work at it a little bit because the almond butter it's sticky. It's peanut butter, right? So we're mixing that peanut butter to the best of our ability, and we're getting it all nice and blended together. The almond butter, excuse me. We're getting it all nice and blended together. And as you are getting this nice, smooth texture, you want to blend until it's nice and smooth. I wouldn't put this in an actual blender. I'm just using a standard spoon. You might want to start off with a fork, or you can use a fork to do this just to kind of break up the almond butter a little bit, but that works fine. This is working great. So as we're doing this, you get a good spin on there. And of course, with our magical work, once we get to a point where we feel like, hey, this is just about done, again, you're mixing in your own personal energies. And the energies that you're mixing in here are going to be whatever energies you feel like you're going to need for our future projects that we've bound up in our spring rolls. So whether it's passion or wisdom or spirituality, whatever it is, remember we talked about those colors. We're going to imagine that coming up out of our core, where we know that our core power sits, comes up out of our core through our hand, down into our spoon, and we are adding it to our sauce, in our dipping sauce, okay? So as you're doing that, once you get to where you feel like it's nice and well blended, you're going to save those last 3 swirls, and you're going to go in a clockwise direction. So as you look down at your bowl, you've got 12 and 6 and 3 and 9. You're going to go in that clockwise direction. Sometimes we call it doshal or sunwise. We're just going to go in that clockwise direction because we're manifesting, right? If we were banishing or we were releasing, we'd go counterclockwise. But for this point, we're going to go clockwise. We're going to save those last 3, and we're going to give it a good final invocation. And we're going to say, in the name of the Lord and Lady at the spring flower moon, I add said energy, passion, strength, wisdom, spirituality, whatever it is, to my coming project, said project, okay? May it keep me fulfilled and focused and sustain me throughout. As it harm none, 1, 2, so mote it be, right? And we're good and happy there. So we're going to take this together. We're going to get this served up. We're going to give this a bite because we are all finished. So as we're all finished, this is a good time to thank Deity for joining us for our full moon. This is a good time to release your quarters if you did that, and feel free to open circle. Remember that any open circle is never a broken one. You are always with Deity. They're always there with you. So I'm going to get this plated up and give this a good try, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I have my spring rolls together. I've gone ahead and cut 1 in half. We're just going to give this a little bit of a try. It is exactly lunchtime for me, so this is the perfect time to give this a shot. That is really tasty. You don't taste the flowers right off the bat. but you can tell there's a very heavy planty flavor to them, right? Because you've got all the vegetables in here. Really, you taste the avocado and the cucumber first, and you've got that beautiful crunch from the peppers and the cucumber. The onion adds in a little bit of extra flavor, and the peanut sauce, or the, excuse me, I keep saying peanut, the almond sauce is fantastic. It adds that. And then the flowers and the radishes come in, weird as it sounds, with a little sweetness and a little spice depending on the flour that you get. So this is a really great dish. It's a standalone. It works well as a quick lunch. It works well as a side to an Asian-inspired grilled chicken or a fish, as we mentioned before. I'm going to finish up my lunch so that I can get back to my new work. And I'm going to leave you here with the brightest blessings for your flower moon and your full moon coming along. May the abundance that you are looking for find you, and may you just feel the happiness and the joy and the power that comes with that full moon. Don't forget to put your crystals out and make your moon water. Also, one more time, don't forget to like and subscribe down below so you can keep updated on our new videos and any new comings and goings. With that being said, you guys, I'm going to close here with the standard merry meet, merry part, and we are going to see you next time, and it's going to be sooner than the last. So merry meet again. Blessed be everyone.